Oh, hi. Todd Kerns here. Today's episode brought to you by Dirty Tequila, award-winning cinnamon and pineapple infused tequila, premium tequila for a reasonable price. Let's get dirty. Today, we are talking to a very good friend of mine, Rich Jones, from Black HALOS, then a man with the legendary Ginger WILDHEART, and now with a hero of mine, MICHEAL MONROE from Hanoi Rocks. So, today, Todd Kerns talks to Rich Jones. Rich Jones in the house. Where are you? Are you in Hamilton?
I'm in Hamilton at my house, yeah.
Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. That's such a funny, it's such a funny journey you've been on to land back in Canada. I think it's really exciting, especially when you predominantly tour in Europe. That's the fascinating thing, that you guys are able to make that work. I think that's great. But let's get into that in a minute. I want to start with how we met, which was, I believe, randomly. I was always aware of your band, the Black HALOS from Vancouver, Vancouver, Canada. This is where we start. I know you have a whole history before that, but we'll get into that too. But I remember being at a place called the Starfish Room, and we played a show together. I was in Static and Stereo with my brothers. I think we were called Static and Stereo by that point, and you guys were playing. And it was, do you remember that? I don't know if you remember that.
I remember us being there, but did we play there together? Was it like a showcase or one of those?
I think it was like one of those weird shows. I remember Billy Hopeless, the singer, coming up to me and he goes, "Hey, you want to start a band?" And he kind of laughed because we were all in black. You know, everybody was like, we were all dressed in black. And I thought that was, I mean, the HALOS was such a great band. I mean, you guys had a lot going on in it, and it was such a great thing. But I mostly wanted to go back, because you were actually born in the UK, weren't you?
Yeah. So I lived there till I was 8 years old, and then I moved here. You know, I lived just outside Toronto and grew up here. So.
Oh, you did? Okay. So when you were 8, you moved to Canada?
Yeah. And then I was here probably, I'm trying to think when I moved to Vancouver, like 93 maybe, 93, something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were not native to Vancouver, right? It's always it takes me a minute to realize that I thought you were like not native, but I mean, I always assumed you just kind of were a Vancouver guy.
Yeah. When did you guys move out there? Because I feel like we kind of got there like similar-ish times, right?
92 maybe, something like that. Yeah, it was kind of the thing. So when you were a kid in Toronto, you were actually in Toronto, or where were you?
No, I was out in the suburbs in
Burlington, sure. So not far from where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally just like right across the bridge here. So
totally, yeah. And what was the process like of like, you know, what was the music that kind of made you go, you know, like, I want to do this. I want to play music. Was it the punk rock that grabbed you? Because you and I share a deep love of the punk rock. Was it like something like the Bay City Rollers or something because you were a child, or a Partridge Family?
You know what it actually was right after we moved here. The first show I ever saw here was Queen at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Wow.
In like '82 or something, you know.
Wow.
My parents were big Queen fans, and so they took me and my sister, you know, got the iron-on shirt, you know.
Amazing. And you must have just been a little kid, or like.
Yeah, I was like 10, you know, maybe. And
amazing.
And I still remember it, man. I was just sitting there. I was just like.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I knew all the songs too, right? We had a real like musical house, like, you know, when I was growing up, there was always records on, you know.
Totally.
And
what album were they touring on?
But it just like blew my mind, you know.
What album were they touring on at that point?
I think it was
82. Did you say?
82.
That'd be the game. That was the game.
It is the game, right? Yeah.
That was kind of their last North American lap, I think. I don't think
that was their last run here, right?
Yeah, they never came back, which is the strangest thing. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
the whole story, right, about that "I Want to Break Free" video basically kind of ended their career because they were all in drag. And kind
really?
In North America, they didn't come back after that. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
so. Look at it now, right? And it's hilarious. It's like,
of course, yeah.
It's like so like camp and ridiculous and funny, and it's all like, you know. But at the time, people were like, "What's going on with these guys?" You know?
Yeah, like the name wasn't enough. It's like
right.
It's like the whole thing. Come on, dude. But so at this point you weren't you had never considered picking up a guitar or anything like that? You never...
No, but I mean, I love music, and the good thing too. I mean, when I was a kid, like growing up in England, was like the radio at the time there was great, and so like the bands I was getting turned on to like the age 7 were like the Pretenders and Adam and the Ants and stuff like that. Those were the first records I really liked,
Totally, yeah.
For sure. So wait, it was an Adam and the Ants record,
Yeah, well, me too. I was obsessed with Adam and the Ants. Yeah. That's the weird thing about Canada is it has this sort of weird, like, forgotten stepchild of well, not forgotten at all, of the UK. I mean, we have the Queen on the money. The music sort of has this sort of, but we have a conduit right to England all the time. It seems very common, Yeah. So you came over, you would have had an English accent at 8 years old.
Oh, yeah. So that was pretty fun going to school, Hello!
Really? Like, was it like that weird? I would actually be kind of like, because it's like when you're 8, it's not quite like you're going to use your accent to like meet the ladies or something like that.
Exactly.
So it's kind of actually, but because I mean, I've had the same conversation with Slash. People kind of forget Slash was born in England, so he came over as a little boy. I can't remember how old he was, but he had an English accent, and people kind of forget that.
From Stoke, right?
Yeah, Stoke-on-Trent. But I mean, basically that area anyway. But he said the same thing. He said it felt weird to be different, so he kind of worked hard on, or just kind of like it went away. Basically, is what happened.
Mine went away pretty quick. But I also think at that age, you're still kind of, developing your voice and your personality and everything. And
totally.
So mine went pretty quick. And then when I moved back to England, like in 2003 or whenever, 2004, whenever it was, my English accent like kind of crept in a little bit.
Interesting.
But also I knew all the English slang, right? But I just sounded like some like jackass American guy saying,
Yeah.
I was like so aware of it, And I'm like, I know that everyone says tomato here, but it sounds stupid if I say it like that.
Totally,
right? Yeah. Little things like that would always be going on in my head.
Endless comedy for
Oz.
Or go back to my flat, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
It's unavoidable when you're there. Otherwise, people are going, "What the hell are you talking about? Where's the restroom?" Yes. They go, "What?"
They're like, "What's up with this yank?"
So at what point did you kind of like, obviously seeing a show like Queen, which may or may not inform you what you want to do musically later on. Obviously, we all have a deep love and respect for what those guys are, but when you like later on, how long was it till you actually said, "I'm going to get a guitar. I want to pick up a guitar," or whatever?
It was pretty quick after that, but then I realized pretty quickly too that I'm like, I'm not very good at this. This is hard,
It is hard, yeah.
And but I ended up, I had a band when I was like 12,
That's awesome.
We were playing like Breaking the Law and Parallel.
Yeah, of course. As you do, yeah.
Yeah, we played like in the mall. We played a gig in the mall food court once.
No way. In Burlington?
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing.
We played Black Sabbath in the food court at 12 years old.
I can just imagine like parents walking by, like, what's going on here?
Oh, it was absolutely like that. Like dagger stares,
Amazing. So that actually, like that, you managed to kind of like eclipse so many questions at a time, because I'm kind of like, most people are like, well, I picked up a guitar and it took me several years to find other guys to play with, and then we put a band together, that kind of thing. And then they just played in basements because there was no gigs to play. Because a lot of places, we played high school dances when I was a kid. Like there was actually like, did you do that? There was still a gig?
In high school, yeah. We played the lunch breaks in high school,
Right.
And I remember the first lunch break we played Sweet Leaf, and then after, and then afterwards a teacher came up to me and he goes, I know what that song's about. Don't play it next time.
Amazing. Yeah, we did a bunch of that kind of stuff too, and I mean that was kind of like what you did. Your kids, it's basically a step away from talent contest kind of thing, really. It's
yeah. It's wherever you too, right? I mean, you like, makes like learning guitar enjoyable. If you're like, man, I love the song, I want to know how to do it,
Totally.
But it's also, I think, it's a good foundation for learning how to write songs and how songs are put together, right?
Absolutely. The intro into the verse, into the pre-chorus and the chorus. You know all that just from like when you start making up your own songs. You go, okay, well, Sweet Leaf does this, or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, you can play like every song ever recorded.
Well, not quite, but Sweet Leaf I know.
I'm working on it.
I've had a lot of time during the quarantine to work on the rest of the songs I don't know. Yeah. But the okay, so then after that, what was that band called? I got to know what that band was called. It had to have a name.
The high school band.
Yeah.
We were called the Diesel Dogs. It was like the Cheech and Chong band, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
It's so funny because it's like I wasn't a stoner kid, but
Oh.
I had a band called the Diesel Dogs named after a Cheech and Chong song, and we were playing Sweet Leaf. I was like 15.
I don't think that stuff translates as well. Like I don't remember thinking like Sweet Leaf is about weed. I remember just being like, it's a killer riff and it just sounds so heavy. It's like the coolest thing ever. Yeah. So how long is it after that before you start to kind of like, did you move to Toronto after that to become like, think I'm going to pursue this as a career, or how? Or...
I kind of played around with people, but nothing really like, I wasn't really writing my own songs or anything at that point. I was still a teenager, just like
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And and then I played with some guys in Toronto who had their own songs, but it was like.
So did you move to Toronto?
Really happening? Like, what's that?
You moved to Toronto? Like you actually relocated, or you're just kind of traveling?
I stayed in Burlington until I moved to Vancouver.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And then, Vancouver. The first band I joined in Vancouver was this band called Flash Bastard.
Of course, yeah, I know, we know them well. Yeah, they're a legendary punk glam group from Vancouver.
Yeah, and it was just like such a eye opener for me. I'm just like, wow. I'm like, these are all the things I do not want to do when I have my own band.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good lesson to learn, though, isn't it? Like, you kind of got that out of the way. So,
yeah, the most self-sabotaging band in the world. You know what I mean?
I know.
And the thing is, I'm still friends with all those guys now.
Me too, yeah.
Really talented dudes, you know what I mean? And,
absolutely.
And, they were like that close to, making something, and they.
I know.
I don't know if you remember, right? They got the Motley Crue Scorpions tour.
Yep. And they blew it somehow.
Put out the record, and it was a big thing. And they, what did they last like a week on that tour before they got thrown off it, right? It was. They were signed to Nicky's label. That was their whole thing. Like it was kind of like, wow, that's great, But so what was the transition from Ontario to Vancouver then? Like what was the motivation to do that? Well, my parents had moved out there. They were living
okay. So it was with your family.
I think I was maybe 18 or 19 or something. And
I see.
There's just nothing happening for me out here. I didn't really, I was playing with some guys in Hamilton actually. And I wasn't really I just felt like I needed to try something different, go somewhere else, make my own thing really,
So when did the punk rock bug bite you? Like, does that in your youth as well? The heavy metal gateway drug to punk rock, or?
I don't like that,
Me too.
I love like the old Ozzy records and Iron Maiden records and stuff like that growing up. But I kind of in my early teens, I guess I started to be like I want to discover more, and hear more. Mm-hmm. And there used to be a show on here called Toronto Rocks.
Yeah.
Which was like the video show after school, come on. Totally. And then they'd have like midweek Metal Mania. And all metal videos on a Wednesday. But back then it's, obviously there's no internet, and you're grabbing like magazines to find out about bands and stuff, or you see videos on there and you'd be like, oh, look, this band's cool, I want to check it out. And that leads you to like another band that they're like, well, yeah, we're influenced by this or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
And, one of the bands that really did that for me was Hannah and Rocks actually, because
me too.
They used to play those videos on TV here, and then they were like, well, these guys are like the New York Dolls and the Dead Boys, and and then I'm like, well, what is that? And then you kind of dig in and you go back, and then this whole,
they unfortunately Hanoi kind of gets like in the footnote of history, they think of them as some sort of glam metal band, which 100% is not what I mean. The image is more New York Dolls than Sunset Strip glam. In fact, I think Hanoi, as you can attest to, Hanoi had a huge hand in. I mean, Guns admits it all the time. All the Guns N' Roses guys say Hanoi was a massive influence, but their music is 100% like punk rock kind of band. Like to me, obviously there's rock and roll in there, but it's not really metal at all. Like it's kind of like
it's weird because back then they were touring with the UK Subs, they were touring with Johnny Thunders. It was there's like a weird little scene there that happened, I think, in like the kind of early 80s in the UK especially. That it was kind of like that little like what Hanoi were doing, but like it's sort of like a foot in punk rock and a foot in rock and roll, and then also a lot of bands took that look later and it turned into hair metal, right?
And it changed into something else, But that's interesting you say that, because that's a great gateway drug. That Hanoi sort of does open the New York Dolls, and that's an awesome rabbit hole. And like you say,
Yeah.
and then Thunder's the offshoot of that, and just finding all that kind of stuff. And as a guitar player, as a musician, it sort of starts to inform a different style of guitar playing, where you one day were trying.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because I've been listening to metal guitar playing until then, and I'm like, I couldn't play that, you know.
No.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, what's going on here? It's like there's different things going on over here, and this guy's like, and it's a little bit out. It sounds awesome, you know.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's so much more. It's a little bit more like about visceral reaction rather than precision, and that's what's always sort of been for me. Like even when I go back now, it's kind of like I'm always kind of like, yeah, that guy can sure play fast, you know, or whatever. But and it's pretty cool. But it never really informs me or makes me kind of go, like listening to Rick Nielsen do his thing. I always go, now that's awesome. I love that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, we've always shared that, where it's kind of like, you know, as adults, we sort of kind of moved into a different thing, even though I kind of have always sort of moved in and out of that thing. So when Vancouver happens, I was with your family. I asked you kind of like, that answered my question. I was like, yeah, right. You came out with your family. That's right. So how long was it before you were in Flash Bastard? Or that was the first band you joined? Was that the first band you played in?
I feel like it was like a few weeks after I moved there. It was like real quick, you know what I mean?
But you're tall, like Pete Bastard. You were tall. You had great hair. You're probably like, that's the guy. Can he play guitar? Perfect. Be in our band. Or did you have to audition, or how'd that work?
I think I did. You know, it was a really weird time too. I mean, it was, you know, I mean, like then it was like grunge was like the thing, right? And
totally. Yeah.
like,
What year was that when you got 91? You said, right?
93, I think is when.
93. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely like the heat, the thick of the grunge thing was happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, you remember in Vancouver, like every dude was like, you know, combat shorts and Doc Martens and like, you know, they got the long goatee and you know, people would throw bottles at us when we played. They hated us.
Wow.
I remember some guy just came on stage and punched Domo in the face one time.
Oh my God. What kind of venues?
I was like, yes. Like, you know,
that's like punk rock credibility, getting punched in the face at a gig. Yeah.
Well, I feel like if you're getting that strong of a reaction out of people and you're doing something that's so different.
Totally. What kind of venues were you playing?
Well, I mean, you must remember back then too, right? Vancouver didn't have a lot of venues, right?
No Fun City. You know? They called it No Fun City back then.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be playing like booze cans, you know, after hours shows and stuff. And
amazing.
There was a place up on like Main and Broadway or something.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was, but it was like the only like actual club in town that we could play at.
Like Twilight Zone maybe, or something like that out there?
I think Twilight Zone was Gastown, wasn't it?
No, I don't remember. Yeah, I get them all confused now. Like Hungry Eye, Cruel Elephant, like they're all these like a million places. The Town Pump, you know, so many legendary places. I loved Vancouver. You know, and I still love Vancouver. I mean, it had such a like. It just seemed like everybody was in a band, guys and girls. Everybody I knew was in a band, and it was like. I mean, it's also informs the time, because even though, you know, the alternative thing became such an explosion of you know, and it's funny because punk rock was certainly alive and well, and probably more than ever in its own way, like from a commercial sense. But it certainly changed it you know, it kind of morphed into something else. And that's when. So how long after the Flash Bastard experience were you suddenly putting together the Black Halos?
Like right away. Like
oh, really?
Yeah, and you know, it was the same thing back then too. You know, there was nowhere to play, right? There was nowhere for us to play, and we had like a lot of this. I probably started in '94, Black Halos, and we had like a bunch of the songs that ended up on our first record, which didn't come out until like 5 years later. We had those like right away, you know.
Right.
And,
right.
But we just couldn't get like anything happening. It was like, you know, we'd like play like in our rehearsal space, like we'd have parties there, you know, and the cops would come busting through the door with a battering ram and stuff. You know?
Really? Damn.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. On Seymour Street, kind of opposite where the Starfish used to be.
Oh yeah.
Like around the back, kind of from there. But
yeah,
we used to rehearse in there, and then we just have parties there and stuff. And
yeah, well, you want to play.
I don't know if it's still there, but do you remember Miss T's Cabaret? It was like a drag queen country bar.
Yeah.
And you had to go down in the basement, and if you went right, you went to the steam rooms, and if you went left, you went into the gay country bar, you know. And so we started doing stuff there too, because they're like, yeah, you guys can have the room for $50 or something like that, you know.
Really? So you started putting on your own shows, punk rock style.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it was we did we did this show there. We just decided, we're like, let's do an Era Dolls tribute show. It'll be fun. You know?
That'd be awesome.
So we called it the New West Dolls, and we booked the drag queen country bar, and like 12 people came. It was we made these like glitter flyers, and everyone's all dressed up. Like, yeah, it's gonna be a party. It's gonna be awesome. We're like, nope. And then but it turned into one of those things though that people kept talking about that show like years later.
Sure.
And finally in like 2000, we're like, let's do another one. And it was packed, you know what I mean? Like wall to wall with all these people that were at the first one.
Yeah. Exactly. They all claim to have been at the first one too. Yeah. You're like, no, you weren't. There was only like,
I could see literally every face in the room at that first one.
But that's, those kind of shows are such and like, I think it's such a character building experience, as much as sometimes you kind of get a little glory here, like just some kind of, but it's such an informing thing on who you are as a person and as a musician, that you kind of have to play for people who don't care what you're doing, actually are very opposed to what you're doing, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it sets you up for those shows on tour when you're in Lawrence, Kansas, and there's like, you're playing to like the bar staff and like a dog that's running around the room or something, it's kind of like you can deal with them better at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like sort of paid. It's a rehearsal, basically. Often playing for the other band that's playing that night. They're sitting there waiting, and then you play, and then you just kind of watch each other's set. Like, okay, good, good job. How long did you remain in that chapter of the Halos?
So we started in '94, and then I guess I left in 2001.
That's a long run. Yeah.
But we didn't really things didn't really happen for that band until like '98. I think we signed us up, and then we did those 2 records, and it was like things were going kind of good, and we just had this like insane run of bad luck,
right?
And to the point where it was just like we ended up like stranded in Toronto in a rental van because our van's engine had blown in like Saskatchewan or something.
Sure.
Right? And we were about to hit the U.S. for a tour with Super Suckers and Zeke. And
wow.
Twin Towers came down.
Right.
And
9/11
on the news, and we're like, this is insane. What's happening? And then all the borders closed. So then we're like, okay, now we're stranded like across the country. We have no van. We're paying to rent this van from Saskatchewan with like money that's going to run out. So we don't know how many shows.
Right. Yeah.
And I just ended up, I asked Sub Pop for help. I'm like, can you guys help us get the van fixed or get it out of here or something? And they were just like, nope.
Jesus.
And I was just like, all right then.
Wow. So it's character building. That's the only way you can really kind of like,
character building there. Yes.
Yeah, a lot. But that's part of the thing. And I think everybody kind of thinks they're going to pick up a guitar and like, live in a mansion at 23 years old. It's like, well, no, I mean, most of us got to go out there and grind and have crazy bad luck like that. And that kind of bad luck is super common for everybody. In Canada, it's so far to cross the country that it's and there's so few places to play along the way that you are most assuredly going to have car issues at least somewhere, or van issues, or whatever you're traveling in along the way. You're going to have, it's just all these, it's called bad luck, but it is just kind of like, it's just inevitable that these kind of problems are going to happen. We've all been stranded in the snow. Econoline Crush and bands like that had, bus accidents. Rhymes with Orange, a band from Vancouver, they crashed their van. It's like, guys nearly died, and it's like, it's not for the weak at heart, is it?
No, I mean, I think you figure out pretty early on too, like the kind of people that are going to stick it out and people that aren't. You know what I mean? Lifers, yeah. And you kind of, as we get into our more mature years, we've been around a little bit. You can like see those people when they come onto tour. Sometimes you'd be like, oh, they're not going to make it.
yeah. He won't be around long. He won't be around long at all. So by the time you guys kind of land in, when that happens, is it just was enough run of bad luck that you finally kind of went like, I'm going to see what else is out there? Or was it more like a...
Yeah, I just, there's sometimes it's like, man, I'm just like beating my head against this wall, like constantly. And you kind of realize, I'm like, things aren't going any further than they are right now. And I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
and I also, you know, I kind of wanted to like push myself to do different things and get out there more and stuff. And so,
Yeah.
so that's when I moved to LA, which was a whole other story in itself.
That's
But
interesting. So, and how long? So you get to LA. I mean, that's why I like talking to you, because it's like your story isn't just like I grew up in this town. We put a band together, and and we made some records or whatever. It's kind of like, no, you're like in Toronto, which is, for those that don't know, is like New York, like East Coast. You move all the way to Vancouver, which is the LA side, and
yeah,
then you find yourself in Los Angeles, in a different country.
yeah.
Well, how did that work for visa
Bouncing
purposes and
about.
legal purposes? Were you basically on the lam, or some sort of like landed immigrant, or how?
I was kind of, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
under the radar, shall we say? For the
yeah,
most
yeah,
part.
yeah.
But
As
I
it,
also, I mean, so what happened was, I joined this band called Amen,
amen. Yeah. So
and
now
they
was that the impetus to move to Los Angeles? Like you got a gig and then you went down there?
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
they knew our band, and we were actually supposed to do a European tour with them with Black Halos.
Oh, okay.
And this is like right around the time with all that bad luck. We were in Spain for the first part of, like, we were headlining our shows in Spain, and
That's
then we
amazing.
were flying to the UK to hook up with them for like a month or something, and then we're gonna do like 6 weeks with Nashville Pussy in Europe or something. And it was like we had this whole thing, and then they, like, while we were in Spain, Amen canceled their UK dates that we were on.
Oh
And
no.
now we're like, okay, we can't afford to sit here out in Europe for like however long waiting for this next tour to happen. So
Right.
we just had to cancel everything else. We just did the Spain dates and come home, you know. But
Yeah, I kind of always. I mean, that's an interesting, that the Halos actually did a whole European run. You had a whole following out there. I mean, you had some great traction. Unfortunately, like it's really hard to keep that machine rolling. No one really considers the fact that you got this many people and maybe a crew guy or two, and all that stuff, and hotel rooms and a van and flights. It's just
yeah,
it's a money hole that you just keep throwing money into
yeah,
until
yeah, it really is. It really
yeah.
is, you know. And I mean, it worked out pretty good for us actually though, because we got this Spain tour offer, which is, you know, when we were first like, yeah, we're going over to Europe,
Hmm.
and I was like, I'm like, free trip to Spain, man. You know, I'm like,
Of
nobody knows
course.
this there. Like, what's this
Yeah.
gonna be like? You know, but I'm like, I'll get in a van and go drive around Spain for a couple weeks playing shows. Why not? You know?
Hell yeah.
And we get there, Barcelona first show, packed. Everyone's singing along, and we're seriously on stage like, what is happening here? You know, and
That's so awesome.
it turned out to be a great run, you know, and it's actually been really good for the band over the years. Like when we got the band back together a couple of years ago, it was because Spanish tour offer, you know,
That's
you want
right.
to do this.
That's
I'm
right.
like, hell yeah, you know.
Amazing.
It's
So
always
you
been
get
really good for us there.
so you get to LA. Where did you put down roots in LA? Where were you staying? Like what part of LA were you living in?
Yeah, sorry, I went off on like a huge tangent. I
No,
like
it's
drove down the
I
street that way. You know?
yeah, I should have established that the Black Halos wasn't just like some Canadian band that was running around, because we did tons of shows together up there too. But you had a whole European run that a lot of Canadian bands. The funny thing about Canada, as you know as well as I do, that you can have a whole career in Canada and never go anywhere. Like
Yeah,
we saw a lot of that. But
that
you
was something I
guys,
was really like made, you know, conscious of not doing. You know,
yeah, yeah.
we definitely toured the U.S. more than we ever toured Canada. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys had
uh,
way more of a thing going on internationally than just sort of at home. So did you get so the Amen gig, because what you're leaving did you leave the band to join Amen, or did
well,
just
what happened was you know, we knew them obviously, and then their guitar player left, and it was just right when everything was going like down the pan. You know what I mean?
right.
And I just got on the phone and I was like, you know, hey, you know, can I audition?
Right,
And
right.
they're like, yeah, like we'll fly you down, come down, you know.
Cool.
Went and played like, you know, a couple songs with them in this rehearsal room in the Valley, and they were like, okay, you got the gig. And I was like, I hadn't really thought that far ahead, you know.
Right.
I really didn't expect to get it either, you know.
Yeah,
And
sure.
and so it was like, you know, probably the end of 2001, I think, or something. And they were like, we got the big day out in Australia in January.
Right.
It was the first tour, right? So, you know, I went home to Vancouver, and then I ended up going down to LA for like, I don't know, a few days rehearsal, and then it was like straight on a plane to Australia.
Wow.
first show in like well, actually trying to play in New Zealand because the first show was in Auckland and it was like 50,000 people or something. I'd never played a live show with these guys before, you know. and like the intro music's on, you know, the backdrop's up and everyone's and they go, oh yeah, we got this intro that we do as well. It's D then F and then I'm like, what? I'm like, hey, just follow along, you'll be fine.
Oh my God! Wow. I appreciate that kind of like seat of your pantsness of it. I guess that's kind of cool.
Yeah. That's. I mean, that was one thing that I definitely got a lot of good things out of like playing in that band because it was. I mean, it was such a different style of music for me.
Totally. Yeah.
The shows were never the same live. Like we would like extend songs. We'd have like, you know, have like weird breaks here and there. Like we would just kind of like let it go. It was almost like free form sometimes, you know.
That's interesting. Wow. Now, how long did you last in that camp?
Like 3 years. It was, you know, I mean.
And were you basically based out of Los Angeles this entire time, or were you kind of?
So I was, you know, I was living in LA, and then I just, it's not a city that I really get along with in terms of like a place to live.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not really like a networker guy, you know.
No, I know.
I'm like, I have a hard time going out to like those record industry functions, you know. That
Yeah,
kind of thing,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, totally, yeah.
kissing hands and shaking babies and all that stuff.
Totally,
you know,
yeah.
I can't do it.
No.
So I ended up moving back to Toronto.
Okay.
And then I would come out to LA for like rehearsals or tours or whatever.
Oh, okay, wow.
Back home.
Yeah.
And then it was a really volatile band to be in. Let's just say that.
I remember that being kind of the MO, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I mean, the shows were these like wild, like you know, like martial amps being thrown off the stage, like the drum kit being dismantled, like during a song, like it was just like just full on like madness, you know.
Anything can happen, kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so, but it was, you know, unfortunately there was like a lot of like personality clashes going on in that band.
Sure, yeah.
And it all kind of, we ended up, we did really well in Europe and didn't really do anything in North America at all.
But I was aware of the band. I mean, a bunch of us followed the band, but it was kind of like, yeah, it seemed like it kind of had more of a thing over there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made a record, and then we were doing, the album release was a show at the Virgin Megastore on Oxford Street, right in central London, you know.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Like a show and then a signing.
Right.
And we destroyed the place. It was like, it was so bad. Like just like everything was like smashed, you know. And then at the signing, we ended up getting in a fight.
Really?
There's like kids like standing there, and it was like a fist fight.
With who? With each other?
Well, it was me and the singer.
Oh. Wow.
And it was, you know, it just got to, it like really just came to a head right there, and the whole band quit. The day that our album came out, at our album launch, we all quit.
Wow. Insane.
And so what I did, it was, you know, after everything kind of, you know, cooled down, we were like, look, there's, you know, a lot of people put work into this tour, you know, our manager, our agent, you know, our publicity people, the label, you know, there's a lot of work here, and we can't just like bail it because we've had a fight. So we were like, let's see the tour through.
Right. Okay.
Which we did. And then our last show was in Berlin. And after Berlin, I was like, see ya. And I just got on the bus back to London. And I was like, I live here now. And all I had was like my 2 guitars and my suitcase that packed for the tour. And that was it. I just moved to. And
that's how you landed in London. Because that's, you know, again, Toronto, Vancouver, LA, London.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and then, wow, that's such a crazy story, dude. And then like, so then London is a whole new chapter for you. I mean, like,
yeah, big time.
How long is it before you start playing with Ginger WILDHEART and that whole experience? Because Ginger, of course, leads to where you are now with Michael Monroe.
Yeah.
To some degree, yeah.
When I moved there, the first thing I did actually when I moved to London was me and the drummer from Amen, Luke, who's a badass drummer. We were like, what can we do for money, you know? Because he was an English guy anyway, so he just went back to Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
And until we started like driving bands around on tour, you know, driving bands.
Oh yeah. Sure, yeah.
And we were driving one day, and I had the NME open, and it was like drummer and guitar player needed for band. Influences were like the Ramones and Slayer, right? I'm like, what is this? You know, we're like, what is this? So I call the number, and it's Alec Empire from Atari Teenage Riot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, you know, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm interested in this. And it was his manager. And he goes, oh, yeah, Alec knows who you guys are. You got the gig. We'll see you in Austria for the first show, like in a month or something. We're like, what?
Wow. Wow.
So that was the first thing I did there. And I toured with Alec, and it was great, actually. I mean, he's, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the Atari.
I remember. Yeah.
I mean, it was, again, like something so different for me. It was like we had a live drummer, which was Luke, but he was playing along with a drum machine, because a lot of that stuff is like, you know, they call it like electronic hardcore, right? It's like, it's like loud guitars, but it's also like that real like stiff like drum beat, like you know,
mechanical.
And so it was just me and Luke, and then we had Alec was singing, and then Nick Endo, who's also from Atari Teenage Riot, she was playing like synths and noise, basically.
Great. Wow.
And we were playing to the record in our ears.
Okay. Sure.
So basically you go out every night, and I got in-ears in, listening to the record and playing along, you know.
Wow, that's so weird. Yeah.
And then they just kind of mixed everything like in through the front of the house, so you had a record coming through as well. It was wild, man. It was like a really different experience for me.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, especially because you come from a world of plugging your guitar in and just playing with guys, and you know.
Yeah, and that was another one of those shows. The first show we did with him was this festival in just outside Vienna.
Okay.
And we were like the headline act, right? Right. And so we flew to Vienna like a few days early so we could meet Alec and like rehearse the songs, you know.
Right.
And the first day he's like, oh, I'm having car problems. I'm not going to be able to make it today. We're like, oh, okay. Weird. You know, but I'm like, I'm in a hotel, whatever.
Yeah.
Second day, so we're just really behind schedule. We're not sure if we can, like, you know, get there today. I'm like, this is kind of weird, you know. And then like the day before the festival, he's like, yeah, okay, well, we're on the way, but I'm not sure how long it's going to be till we get there. And then they don't get there till like nighttime, right? And I didn't see him, you know. We're just in the hotel. So the next day, I'm just like at the festival. It's this huge place. Never played a note with this dude, and me and Luke are standing at the side of the stage, and he walks in. He's like, "Hi, I'm Alec. Let's go." And we just like get up on stage and start playing.
What? Wow!
It's like my first time meeting the guy is like 10 seconds before we go on stage.
Wow, dude, that's not the way these things normally work at all.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, it was like, you know, like I was saying about Amen. Like that really prepared me for something like this. So too, so I'm like, okay, I gotta like fly by the seat of my pants, and I gotta just do the best I can do with what I know, which is next to nothing.
Just dive in, and it's sort of like that's sort of like, you know, without a net, you're just going out there, and I guess the record's playing, I guess, so you're kind of like, you know, even if we mess up, it's still there, I guess. You know?
Yeah, that was kind of like, okay, this is my safety net, you know?
Right.
But also, I'm like, God knows what this sounds like up front. I have no idea.
Of course, yeah, that'd be so insane, yeah.
Yeah.
So now, how long? What's the transition from that to the next thing, then? I mean, how long did you do that with Alec?
So, well, I just did one tour with him, and well, we did the festival, and then I guess we did like a European tour, and it just financially wasn't making sense for anybody, you know, to keep going like that.
Right.
So he asked me to do more stuff, but he couldn't really, you know, it just didn't make any sense for me to like, I'm like, I can't leave home for a month for this amount of money, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No.
And not to be like, you know, a mercenary or whatever. I'm like, I have a day job where I'm going to make twice that, you know.
I know. Yeah.
And I was really poor back then, like really like dirt poor, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's I can't imagine, because that's the kind of, you know, well, you know, you're hoping that at least, you know, that you'll go out and be able to pay your rent with these gigs. And if you can't, then there's really no point in going, you know?
Well, that's eventually what it came down to. I'm like, look, I won't even be able to, I'd go for a month, but this isn't even going to cover my rent for the month, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a shame, but I ended up in the UK because Black Halos were signed to Sub Pop, and there was a band from London called the Yo-Yos, which was Danny McCormack from the WILDHEART's band. And they signed to Sub Pop as well.
Oh, okay.
They became friends of ours. We played shows together.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting a call out of the blue from those guys one day. And they're like, "We're putting the band back together. You want to play guitar, you know?"
In the Wild Hearts?
No, the Yo-Yos.
Oh, the Yo-Yos. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah.
So,
Right.
so there's a Wild Hearts connection there, you know. And
Yeah,
that's
of course. Yeah.
how I got to, know all those guys, and we made a record and toured a bunch with the Yo-Yos, and we, played with the Wild Hearts, and
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and I just became friends with Ginger. He lived in London. I'd go around his house, or I'd look after his dog for the weekend or whatever.
Right.
It's like hanging out friends, and then.
What was Ginger doing around this time? Was this like when you were?
Well, the Wild Hearts were kind of dead in the water, so he was doing solo stuff, and
okay.
And
this is pre Michael Monroe, though. He wasn't playing with Michael yet.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. No, okay. I mean, this is probably like mid 2000s. So I think they were maybe looking at getting the Wild Hearts back together.
I see. Okay.
Or maybe they just had.
Okay.
But I ended up working in this studio in Soho.
Okay.
Like a rehearsal studio. And like I said, I was just like broke.
Right.
And it was actually great. It was like these guys in Soho that they ran a club called the 12 Bar.
Okay.
And if you walk out the back door of the 12 Bar into the alley, there was a rehearsal studio there, and I worked in there. And then, I worked there all week, and then they give me my money, and I would just like literally walk across the alley and just give it all back to them in the 12 Bar. like, this is a pretty good setup you guys are going here.
I love the arrangement. They knew they were getting the money back. It didn't matter.
Yeah. But I would, we'd play there, and I put on a show there. I put on a show there for a friend of mine, a musician friend who was stuck in the UK after his tour fell apart. He was the only guy that like made it to the UK, and everyone else was still in the US,
Oh my God.
And I was like, dude, let's put together a show, and we can play some songs together, and you can make some door money, and it'll like help you out while you're here.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I put this show together, and we're just gonna like, have a little cover band kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm like, made posters like £3 to get in.
Right.
And then I didn't even really know how it happened, but slowly but surely, like people started to like want to guest in this thing, right? So
interesting.
Like my buddy Jorma, who was playing in the Bronx at the time, he's like, "Hey man, I'm in London right now. Can I get up for a couple songs?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then AC Slater was like, "Hey man, I'm around. Can I get up for a song?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." and then Ginger was like, "Oh man, I wish I could come down for this." I'm like, "Why don't you?" He's like, "Yeah, why don't I?" And then, so before you know it, we had this crazy show with like all these guests. Spider Stacy from the Pogues is there, and Chris McCormack, who plays in Three Colors Red, and the Professionals, and
amazing.
It was this wild night where we kind of had this core band of people, and then we were switching guests. On the world's smallest stage. Like I don't know if you ever went to the 12 Bar, but the stage was it's like maybe 4 feet deep and maybe 6 feet or 10 feet across. Like it's tiny. Like you're literally like this,
It's basically a drum riser.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people are just right there, at your feet. And it was, so we're bringing people up and down off the stage all night, doing different covers, and it was super fun,
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And Ginger was like, "Oh man, this is great, like what a lot of fun." Like,
right.
And me and him just had a great time, and he was like, "Yeah, we should start a band," And then that's where the start of the Ginger Wildheart band came about. Was from that show.
Now, is that whole chapter of Ginger, the legendary 555% thing, is that where that started to lead to? Is that where that all happened, or was this how long were you playing with Ginger before that happened? Basically, Ginger started a pledge campaign for his record to raise money to make a record, and he went from 100% all the way up to 555% of his goal. It was like this legendary thing he'd raised, like I don't even know what the number was, but it was a lot of money to make this.
It was like a real testament to like the fans of that band.
The triple album
it really changed things for I mean, it definitely changed things for him, but I think like it made a lot of us realize like, hey, this is a viable way for us to make records.
Make records, yeah.
Make a living and then not be dirt poor.
And not be indentured to some label or whatever. However you're going to do that stuff, yeah. So how long was it before, like when you joined him to do that, before it sort of turned into that?
It's hard to say because it was like a real organic thing, the way that band kind of turned into what it was.
Right.
Like we started it as a 4-piece, and then we added Victoria, who's a he was an amazing singer.
Amazing singer, yeah.
He became kind of the second singer.
Yeah.
And then Chris Catalyst, our friend who plays in Eureka Machines, and he was in Sisters of Mercy, and he's in another that we can't talk about.
He's not in that thing. You can't talk about that.
And then Chris like joined as well. You know, it was kind of like let's get like all our favorite people together. And so before you know it, we're like a 6-piece band or something.
I know, yeah. It was like a huge
like,
thing.
Well, when we toured with you guys, you know, it was that band.
Yeah. Now, so Ginger had already served his time, because I want to try and connect the dot between this and Michael Monroe from Hanoi Rocks, because so Michael kind of came back after they did a new version of Hanoi, and then it kind of split up.
Yeah.
And then Michael decided, I'm going to put together a solo band. And the first time I ever saw them was here in Vegas. And it was Michael Monroe, Sammy Offa from Hanoi Rocks. And Sammy had spent a giant chunk of time playing in the New York Dolls with Steve Conti. And actually, wasn't Todd Youth supposed to play guitar for that? But Conti suddenly...
Yeah, so there's a whole story about how all this came together. So basically, the WILDHEARTs had the same manager as Michael.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a talk of like Michael's putting this new band together, and you know he wants some songwriting partners,
and Ginger's the kind of go-to guy. Yeah.
So there was this really weird week where I was living in London. You know, I was working in the studios, broke, you know, doing nothing.
Right.
And the WILDHEART's manager, Michael's manager, called me out of the blue, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm losing my mind." You know. She's like, "Can you come to Finland?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Look, I'm just here, and Scott Sorry is here, who was my old friend from Amen, and he was now in the WILDHEARTs, right?"
Right.
And she's like, "Scott is here in Helsinki," and she's like, I can't deal with him any longer. I'm going to lose my mind if I have to go out drinking with him one more day, you know? like, I'll pay for you to come up here and like hang out with him just to like give me some sanity. Right?
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, you know? And so I got on a flight like the next morning.
To Helsinki.
And I went to Helsinki, and so we all end up hanging out this week in Helsinki, and then there's a big festival on the west coast of Finland called Ruis Rock.
Right.
And,
I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
is that around Turku or whatever?
Yeah, Turku, exactly.
Yeah.
So the WILDHEARTs were playing at Ruis Rock, and Michael was like a host. He was like he would come out and introduce the bands and kind of talking.
Well, because he's like in Finland, he's like take your pick. He's like the celebrity of celebrities out there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the guy that like your grandma knows who he is, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we
he hosts to put it in perspective. He hosts the Voice TV show out there, or he's a judge on that, wasn't he?
For a while? He was. Yeah, exactly.
The Voice of Finland, they call it out there, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, he was already well known, and then that just made it like ridiculous. You know, it was like face on the side of buses there and stuff.
I remember that. Yeah, he's in the train station, giant Michael Monroe photo. You're like, damn.
Well, he's like the tourism ambassador for that city too. So when you go around Turku, there's big posters of his face everywhere.
I know, it's crazy because he lives in Turku, which is out in the west there. So anyway, you do this festival. WILDHEARTs are playing. Michael's hosting.
Yeah, so we all end up getting up together and then playing a song.
Oh, really?
The WILDHEARTs with Michael singing and me playing guitar as well.
Crazy.
Pick out the jams, you know.
And you're just there to somewhat, not babysit Scott, but you're.
I can say that, you know, I don't care. but yeah, so and then that kind of from there, you know, the WILDHEARTs were going to take a break again, and Michael was doing the thing, and they were like, you know, him and Ginger started writing, and then that, you know, became that band, right?
Right. Which is
we were all friends by then. So then I became the guy that like was like redesigning like his whole like, you know, the website and doing new merch and making everything look, you know.
Yeah, which you're very talented at, and artwork and whatnot. You're always really, really talented at that stuff. You know.
Well, I get work.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you've done stuff for my company. Yeah, it's amazing. So then like, and then there's a whole process where you're playing. So that whole band happened with Ginger. Ginger leaves that situation for like a 1-album cycle kind of thing. Then he puts together the Ginger WILDHEART band with yourself, Chris Catalyst, Victoria, and everybody. Isn't that how that worked? Wasn't that
Yeah,
after?
I think that is how it was, right?
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, it has to be because I had seen Michael Monroe here in Vegas with Ginger Wildheart on guitar, Steve Conti, and Carl Rockfist, and Sammy Yaffa.
I think though, I think we were still doing the Ginger Wildheart band when he was playing with Michael. I think it was kind of concurrent, those things.
I see.
But when he left Michael's band, we were still, playing. It was still the same band.
But it's interesting because then you're playing in Ginger Wildheart's band, and you're eventually going to end up in Michael's band. But so then they get Dragon, Backyard Babies, Helicopters. He's playing around in Michael's band. You guys are doing Ginger Wildheart over here, and then you did a whole run of that. At what point did you move to Berlin when you were part of Michael's band, or when you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a few years later, but.
So long story short, Dragon eventually goes back to the Babies.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon had so much on his plate. Like when he was doing that
solo album.
He was playing with Michael. He had a solo record that he was finishing up. He had a book coming out. He was having a kid at the same time. It was just like stress levels, like
I know,
through the roof, And then something
like all his hair fell out or something crazy like that. Wasn't there some crazy stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
He had an actual like breakdown of sorts, and he's such a talented guy and such an awesome dude. It's like it's such a crazy thing. I mean, and he was great with Michael, but he's obviously he's back where he really should be in many ways. But so then all of a sudden his removal, or not removal, but his absence suddenly makes it like, what about Rich Jones? Is that basically what happens? Because you were already kind of in the camp. You're
kind of somebody already in the organization. You don't have to get an extra hotel room. No, it actually came out because of Ginger. Ginger.
Right.
We played. We had like a great time being in a band together and playing together. And he mentioned it a few times. Even when they were looking for, like when he left. He's like, oh, you should get Jones. And they wanted Dragon.
Well, Jones, Dragon does have legendary status in that part of the world. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, of course they would, But what happened was there was a summer where Dragon just, he had too much going on. He couldn't do the show. So Sammy called me up and he's like, hey man, Ginger says, you're the guy that can pull off our stuff. You want to come and play some shows, like filling in. And I'm like, yeah, totally, man. As usual, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. I always say you got to be careful when you sub your gig out, because it's basically a gigantic audition for the guy who comes in to fill in for you. And you're so talented, first of all, but you're also such a good dude and so amiable that I'm certain that within moments they were like, this guy's awesome. Like, this is great. And I'm sure as Dragon became more and more busy, it just became kind of like, just give it to Rich,
It was, yeah. I mean, it was kind of gradual like that. It was like, can you do these shows in the summer, these festivals? I was like, yeah. And then those shows turned into like, oh, actually, you can't do these shows either. Can you do this? And then it's like, we're going to do this fall tour of UK and Japan. Can you do those? I was like, yes. And then, eventually it was like a year of me like filling in. And Dragon, he kind of knew, that he couldn't do it anymore, but he didn't want to let those guys down.
No, of course, yeah.
And then I
just pulled my earbuds out. But what a great experience it's been for you, because I mean, you're not just kind of like the hired guitar player, just shut up and do your job. You're a massive part of the group, because you as a writer, which I think is always kind of something that you've always been so good at, just being able to kind of put together 3-4 minute pop songs with pop, punk rock and roll songs. I mean, and I think that it's such a but it's such a great place to be, because Michael is so open to yourself and Steve and Sammy and whoever, just bringing in ideas and just kind of and so you were living in Berlin at this point, which it was another kind of like, you're in London, now you're in Berlin. I'm like, so I'd be like, every time I go to Europe, I go, where are you now? And you're like,
totally.
And then you're like, you're in Berlin? Okay, wow, cool. We hung out a lot in Berlin. I love Berlin. It's so awesome.
It was great, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was by the time I was playing with Michael and it was like a full-time gig, and it was the first time that I'd been in a band in a long time where it was like, we're like we're making a record. We're going to have a touring cycle. We're going to be busy. We know what we're doing for a year kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You never considered Helsinki or like that?
Well, what happened was, I had a friend in Berlin. I used to spend a lot of time in Berlin anyways. It was like an hour and a half flight from London, and you could get flights there for like, seriously, $20.
Really?
Right?
Wow. Yeah. I had no idea.
So we go, me and my friends would go for weekends, and I had a bunch of good friends there. And one of my friends called me out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey man," he's like, I'm moving to a different place, but I'm going to keep my flat in Kreuzberg, which is like the punk rock neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's like, it's 330 euros a month. Do you want it? Damn. And I was like, I'll be there in 2 weeks. London was so insanely expensive to live in, and Helsinki's really expensive too.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I'm like, man, why am I paying to live in London when everything's getting gentrified? All the places I like to hang out are closing down. It's so insanely expensive, and I'm not here for like a lot of the year. I'm just like throwing money away to live in a place, like expensive place that I'm never in, right?
Absolutely.
So I literally just like packed all my stuff into a van and drove from London to Berlin 2 weeks later, and I'm like, okay, I live here now.
So how many years were you in London?
Probably I was there for like a decade.
So the whole thing, really that long? Wow, I had no idea. So the whole thing works because I'm assuming you had a UK passport because of being born there?
Yeah, from being born there, growing up.
Perfect, yeah. So you just kind of, so you could just like hang there. So then you go to Berlin and you're playing with Michael. How long were you in Berlin?
I was there for 3 years.
Yeah, it seems longer than that, but yeah. And then what's the impetus to be back in Canada? Like that after this entire story, you're pretty much back to where you started, which is the craziest thing. You're like a half an hour from where you grew up. It's
wild, man, really wild. What happened was I got married, and my wife is American.
And she's American, so was there no consideration of? She's from California.
Yeah, exactly. So
there was you didn't consider the States.
We did, we considered a lot of things, but what happened was like we were living in Germany together.
That's right. She came to Germany. That was fascinating.
Yeah, so she was going to school there because you can go to university for free in Germany, right?
That's right. That's right.
So she was doing her master's degree in Germany, and we were like, when this is done, obviously you're going to try to get a job, and it's not going to be in Germany because our German is terrible.
Right. Yeah.
So we're like, what are our options? Like, where do we want to go? And we're like, well, Brexit just happened, and Donald Trump just got elected.
Right.
And I was like, I grew up in a real nice place just outside Toronto. and so,
how long did it take her to like, when had she been to meet your family in Canada or any of that kind of stuff? Or
no. See, I mean, this is the wild thing, right? Is that she kind of took a big leap of faith with me, and
God bless her.
Okay, I trust you. Like, if you say this is a great place to live, then let's go do it.
I mean, you got to take into account you have a stepson with her as well, so that there's a whole other side of this thing now too. So
that's the other thing too. Like it's like we're a good place to like raise a kid.
Raise a kid, exactly.
I grew up here and it was great. I loved it. So
of course, yeah. It's I mean, that's one of the great places to be. And the cool thing about Southern Ontario is there, we didn't know it at the time until we got out there, but I always kind of wondered, what would it have been like to actually move to Vancouver to Toronto rather than Vancouver? Because when you go out there, there's so many places to play in and around Southern Ontario that you can actually keep pretty busy doing London and Kitchener and all these, different places. It's mind-blowing. St. Catharines.
Yeah, like Hamilton, where I live, is like 500,000 people. It's a decent sized city, and we're only half an hour from Toronto.
I know.
There's so, if you're like a band that's going to tour in a van, and you're on that kind of level, like I have been for a long time.
Yeah,
this is a great place to be because, like you said, it's not just like Toronto, Hamilton, and London, and Windsor, and like all these places, Ottawa, Montreal. But then there's also it's also like, well, I can drive to Detroit in a couple hours, or I can drive down to New York, or it's like everything's like there's a lot of stuff right here. It's great for being in a band, I think.
It makes a lot of sense. So, but landing, so that you actually took that, rolled those dice, and she's like 100% like invested in. How long you been in Hamilton now? Basically, is what I'm trying to run.
Well, we've been here. I think we've been here 3 years, but when
Amazing.
we first moved, it was like, I'm like, hope this goes well. And within like the first 2 weeks, she was like, God, like every day she'd be like, I love living here. You know?
That's amazing. Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. Yeah, no, you know, because I always wonder that too, because she's, you know, she's lived in Los Angeles and done all that stuff, and you know.
Yeah, but I mean, her family's from the central coast of California. I don't know, you know, if you know that area, like around San Luis Obispo, you know.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
And it's you know, it's beautiful there. I mean, anyone who's been, it's like the climate is like perfect year round. You know, it's like beautiful countryside. The drive on the coast there is like one of the most beautiful drives in the world. You know, it's amazing.
Absolutely. But of course, trying to like put down roots down in California is infinitely more expensive than living in Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah, exactly. And not just that though, too. You know, I had to consider the fact that I'm still commuting to Europe for touring all the time.
Totally.
The flight from Toronto is just about doable, but you know, if I had to fly from California for this stuff, you know, I think it would
you'd be ruined. Yeah, that's the fascinating thing about all this, because I think it's one thing, you know, because your essentially your main career is all based out of Helsinki, Finland, and Europe. So you're living in Toronto. Steve, the other guitar player, lives in New York. So I was kind of like, how the hell does that work? I know Steve's in like, where does he go back to Amsterdam sometimes, or?
Yeah, so it's a wild setup that we have. You know, it's like Carl, our drummer, is a Swedish guy. He lives in Stockholm.
Stockholm.
You know, when the band started, he was living in LA at the time. Sometimes he'd fly in for one show and then fly straight back to LA. You know?
Damn. And what about?
So Carl's in Stockholm. Sammy's got a place in Spain, Mallorca.
Yeah.
Where he spends a lot of his time. And then, you know, you got me here, you got Steve in New York, or sometimes he's in the Netherlands, you know, and so we literally just like have this understanding.
Just kind of all show up for the.
Like, do your homework, you know what I mean? And and so we'll pick a set and then we'll just meet up and it's like on stage.
And not only that, but the actual recording process. I assume you guys are probably in some sort of writing mode and considering another recording at some point. So
yeah, I mean, we do a lot of that on the road too, because you know there's a lot of downtime, and especially when you got guys traveling internationally, right? It's like I'm not gonna fly to Finland every weekend for shows. I'm gonna fly to Finland, stay there for 2 months, and play shows on the weekends, and then sit around Helsinki all week, right?
Exactly.
So Steve does the same. So you know, during that week in Helsinki, it's like, all right, let's get together, let's write some songs, and you know, make use of the time.
Absolutely. That's.
But when we made this last record, when we're finally going out to tour, we're like, all right, we got to get in a rehearsal room and like run these songs that we haven't really ever played together, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember we got this rehearsal space in Helsinki, and I was like I started thinking, I'm like, this is our first rehearsal in 2 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
We hadn't been in a rehearsal room in 2 years because we were just like, you know, if we change up a lot of stuff on the road, but we always just like, do your homework, get it together, know what you're doing, and then you know, if we're gonna do something different, we'll run it at sound check, you know.
That's the way any of these things kind of work. So that's crazy.
I mean, you know, because you did the shows with us, and it's, you know.
I know. Yeah, I should mention that I did like 6 shows with the band filling in for Steve Conti, which was like, you know, honestly, like for you and me to talk about Hanoi Rocks, and you're playing on stage, you know, nightly almost with 2/5 of the original Hanoi Rocks is, you know, Sammy Yaffa and Michael Monroe. For me, it was like the same thing. I was like, damn, dude, this is crazy, you know, getting to play with those guys. And I've known Sammy a long time when he was still living in New York and all that, but it's such a trip. So let's just end off with, because on top of all this, you've managed to kind of reboot the Black Halos as well. So not only are you back half an hour from where you grew up, you also, with my brother playing bass, which is kind of fun too. So
which is great, because me and your brother, you know, we met in Vancouver in the 90s, and we were like pretty tight friends. Like,
absolutely.
And then when I moved back to Toronto, when I was doing my Toronto LA thing, me and him would hang out all the time. Yeah. And he's one of those guys, like super talented dude, super chill, like just great to hang out with. And I was just like, I've always wanted to be in a band with this dude, you know?
Yeah. And so he just slides into the bass position. And the funniest thing is now you're doing an even crazier thing, because now you basically got a band based out of the Toronto area or the Ontario area, and then you drag them all out to Vancouver with Billy. Billy still lives in Vancouver. And then you do shows or whatever. So that's
you know, doing the Monroe thing kind of made me realize that it can work like that, you know,
It can, yeah.
And it makes sense because with the Halos, I write most of the stuff, you know,
Right.
You know, at least musically. And then, so what, you know, I'm like, it makes more sense for me to have a band right here that I can go to a rehearsal room with, and we can work out all these songs. And then, you know, when we get together with Billy, we can kind of finish up things. We can send in demos, you know.
So where do you go from here? Like, I mean, this is a great place to end off, like where you're going, because I assume that is the Halos, you could probably do some recording at some point, I assume, or?
Yeah, so we're gonna put out a record next year, I guess.
Great.
So we have a label offer, a pretty good label offer, and you know, we got plans to kind of, you know, get this record made and tour it, and you know,
dude, that's fantastic.
Basically, kind of work it around the Monroe cycles, so that
everybody's scheduled.
A record and tour with him, and then, you know, and then I go play with Alter Bridge for a little while. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody, that's the funny thing. I've been having this conversation just recently. Miles is in 3 projects. Like, everybody that's in the 21st century. Suddenly, we all are in this position where we all have multiple balls in the air. You know.
Yeah.
It's just the way it works.
But I think it's, you know, it's also, you know, because we, you know, we like doing what we're doing, and that's why we're still at our age playing music like a bunch of children, right?
Anything to avoid responsibility for as long as possible. Yeah. So what is the cycle for Michael? Like, are you down for, well, I mean, obviously right now things are kind of wacky, but I mean, on a normal basis, are you often, like, do you find yourself back home for a couple months at a time sometimes, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we tour year round, you know. We're pretty lucky that we have a good fan base in Finland. Yeah, we can do a couple of tours there a year, plus we do summer festivals, and then we'll go to like Japan and UK, you know, here and there. But it's like, you know, I usually have a pretty consistent, like every year, you know, whether we make a record or not, we're pretty consistent touring, which is great.
That's amazing.
So this is weird for me. This is the longest I've been home in a long time.
You know? For all of us, dude. Like, everybody I talk to is like, I haven't been off stage this long in my life. And I go, I never really thought about it, but yeah, you're right. I've not been on stage this long since I can't remember when, you know. It's just kind of like,
this is my first summer at home in 8 years.
And I keep telling my friends, and I'll tell you too, make the most of it, because, you know, because then all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh, I got a crushing flight to Helsinki, and, you know, which will be exciting at first, but eventually you get into a cycle of, like, you know, you find yourself, you know, waiting for your layover or whatever, and you're kind of like,
I mean, you know, like the tedium of travel after a while. And I definitely was starting to get to me, you know, before this all happened.
Sure.
I was like, you know, I'd be kind of filled with dread about going to the airport and stuff.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's, you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, we both know it's like there's a lot of like downtime, a lot of waiting around, a lot of travel when you're in a band. But you just kind of learn to put yourself in that headspace where you just go like sit back and just go with it, like let it go. And
absolutely, especially when you consider, you know, I mean, and you got to take into account, like, there was a time you were super broke working at a rehearsal space, and now you've got this great cycle of really rewarding stuff. Like I said, not only are you just playing, you're playing songs that you wrote for these guys, you know, and with these guys, and that's really awesome. And it's been really great to watch this happen for you, because, you know, it's always like, where's Rich? He's in LA. Rich is in LA. You know, it's like, he's in London. London? The hell's he doing in London? You know? And then, like, so it was always this kind of like, you know, to watch it almost looks planned. Like, I'm going to go to LA, you know, I got a band in Canada. We're doing our thing. I'm going to LA to join this band. That's going to take me to London to do that thing. And then I'm going to end up, you know, where I kind of belong in this, you know, this European, you know, ability to play Europe and Japan and the UK every year, and still be able to live back where I'm comfortable. And like I said, back where you grew up, which I think is fascinating. You know what I mean? It's like, my wife's family is from Hamilton as well. So, you know, we would be there multiple times if we could get up there, but
it's, you know, but it's, you know, come back a little bit to what you were just saying too. It's like, you know, having been in a position where, you know, I'm doing band tours, or I'm breaking down across the country, and I have no money, or I'm like living in like the worst part of East London, you know, in a tiny apartment, you know, that fills with smoke from the restaurant below every day, you know, like living in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
It kind of, it's a good thing. Like, you know, you got to remember like how fortunate you are to be doing like what we do a lot, you know. I've been in bands with people, and, you know, we'll like get out on the road and they'll be like, this bus sucks, man. And I'm just like, shut up, you're on a bus.
Yeah, exactly. When you've been in when your van broke down in Saskatchewan, you had to have a rental that you couldn't, you know, pay for by the time you got to Toronto, and all that stuff. You eventually learn, like, oh, we're gonna be on a bus. Like I'm the same way. It's like every day I get on a bus, I'm like, wow, and there's a TV. You know, it's like,
I'm the same, man. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this has a bed and there's somebody else's driving.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like, winner. Anything else is like the gravy on top, you know?
Exactly, yeah. You know, you don't have to like, you can't drink tonight because someone's going to drive the van tonight. You know, it's like back in those days, trying to. I'm assuming in the HALOS, it must have been like, who's going to be able to keep one of these guys sober enough to drive to the next?
They would always, you know, taking turns, but there'd be stuff like with the HALOS, you know, we did Warped Tour one year, and it was. You have to, the way Warped Tour works is, you know, they change the schedule every day. So you have to get there at 9 a.m, find out when you're going to play, right? And then you have to stay till 11 at night when everything shuts down, and then you can leave, you know, but we're in a van and these drives are like 10 hours, right? So if you do the math, you're like, I got to be here all day at this festival. And then I have a 10-hour time slot to get to the next festival, which is a 10-hour drive.
Overnight.
So when do you sleep, right?
Yeah, you're driving overnight. God.
Yeah, and you know, and you're in a van. You don't get any real sleep or anything, you know. But you know, it's one of those things. It's like
you're young.
Like
you were young at the time.
Yeah, you're young, but there's also some people who are cut out for it, and some people want to do it, and there's other people that are going to be like, no way. Yeah,
it sort of separates the men from the boys that way. Well, I've kept you long enough. Thank you so much, man. That was really fun getting to chat about all this, because it was, I've always wanted to do it with you because, like I say, your story is so, you know, like I said, it seems orchestrated looking back at it, but I know that life is so, you know, you just kind of go with the flow. And now you're in such a great place, you know, with your life, and such a great place musically, that I think it really kind of, it's inspiring to watch.
It's nice to feel like I kind of have some roots finally somewhere. And I'm like, you know, everything's like,
absolutely.
I don't have any plans of like, you know, jumping on a flight to Taiwan next week and now we live there, you know. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I have a feeling you're probably going to stay put for a while. Thanks, buddy. Thanks so much. That was really awesome. Let's keep in touch.
For sure.
Peace.